Hello and welcome to the Smashi Business Show. Today is Friday, December 12th, 2025, and I'm Wert Badawi.
And I'm Richard Fitzgerald.
And for today's headlines, construction is beginning on the 350-meter Trump Tower in Dubai, and OSN has said that the Warner Bros. Suspected deal is unaffected. And finally, Paul Pogba has taken a stake in a Saudi Camel racing team. And abroad, we're seeing an even more interesting story play out. And it's that Disney is investing $1 billion into ChatGPT. And I think that it's so interesting how, now we're going to see that Sora is basically going to get access to the Disney characters. And I think, with this entire story, we're seeing so many industries that are just almost phasing into one another. They almost can't exist without each other.
Yeah.
But what do you think about that, Rich?
Good morning, Ward. It's good to be back with you today. We just had our end-of-year party last night, gathering in Dubai, which is really nice. And we're just so blessed that the weather's so good. We've had such a good year, and it's nice to celebrate. But yeah, that story did break, and it was a topic that some of us were talking about. And you can look at these stories like we do in this show. We can talk about stories with different lenses, like we tend to do, and that's a great format that podcasting allows you in an unconstrained way, or whatever. You know what? I have an interesting take on this. Yes. I'll say it's interesting before I say it. You can be the judge, but I think this is deja vu. This is like streaming over again, and the incumbent legacy, too slow to move, profit-focused companies are giving the house away again. In 2007, when the DVD company went streaming, they picked up a load of assets, Netflix did, and the other companies decided not to launch their streaming service. And 10 years later, they launched their streaming service. I think in 10 years' time, Disney will have their own AI. I think that you don't sign the house rights away. You do not give Sora, OpenAI, access to your archival library. And the only reason I think you do it is because if commercial people run companies, and I'm a huge fan of Bob Iger, I love all the deals he made, but if you had Ted Sarandis, who's a content guy who runs Netflix, if you have a content person in charge of a company, I don't think they make decisions like that. I don't think they give away their stories and their IP. And it came up with something in recently is that too often commercial people get the MD roles, the salespeople get the jobs. In this region a lot. A very good friend of mine has taken up a head of a social media agency role in the UK. And I saw a headline that he did an interview, X, it's not the company X, it might be Snap, it might be Meta, but ex-UK boss, and it was a flattering headline. And then his first line was, oh yeah, next year's going to be a big year for our clients. But if you're in charge of a social network, the customers and the users who download the app and who use that app to chat or to post, don't expect the boss or the manager to think that their only role is getting clients' ads on the platform, right? Am I explaining that well?
You are explaining this well. So, I don't know if I completely agree with it,
but I mean, okay, obviously there's product people in the US and the home base is covered, but Sam Altman is a product person. He's under so much pressure for being non-commercial. People are like, 300 billion valuation, and you haven't even got more than $20 a month. So the commercial world is dragging him in, and of course you have to have a business model. But I don't know why, but I'm thinking of the future MDs of our businesses, and I'm thinking, should they come? Will we be a better future media company if we allow editors, content creators, and social media people be the MDs to make decisions, or if we let the salespeople make decisions, right? And just to bring it home,
I don't think we'd get salaries if that happened. I don't think so.
But the point I'm trying to make is that why can't editors and content people be good commercially as well? Why can't they evolve and be trained? But essentially, like, Steve Jobs was a marketer, but he understood product. I think the good leaders don't forget the core of the business, and the IP, Disney's IP is the core of the business. Do not give it away for the next shiny technology came along, like you did with streaming. Don't do it. Like, it took you 10 years to buy BAMTech, to buy Hotstar, to launch Disney Plus, and all you're doing is playing catch up. And now for the next 20 years, all you're going to be doing is playing catch up on AI, right? Like, I'm not saying that it's related to who makes the decisions, but I do feel like, you know, I do feel like this is a commercial thing, you know, that you're asking for money rather than saying, hey, what does AI look for us?
No, I see what you mean, Rich, in the sense of, in the end of the day, they are giving away something, and especially to an industry which we have many unresolved questions about. You know, we don't actually know everything about AI yet and how it's actually going to play out and whether our spending is justified. But I think when I take a look at the story, I remember BuzzFeed. You know, just the gradual, I would say the downfall. It's still running on digital media, but we saw how BuzzFeed News shut down. And I'll never forget this, but one of the founders basically said that we care more about, like, the true integrity, the writing, much more than monetization. And that's a content person right there speaking. And obviously we've seen the mass layoffs, the complaints, but you know, they had one of their employees, Quinta Johnson, she went on to be really successful. She has this show called Abbott Elementary, if you know it. It's really funny.
You make a good point.
It's bringing back sitcoms, but I think my point with this entire part is that, you know, they had all these content people who left, went, you know, they became absolute successes, not just anywhere, but in Hollywood. And their point was, we care more about content than monetization. So I understand what you're saying. They're giving away something, but, like, aren't we all giving away something every single time we use ChatGPT?
We are.
So
you do have to make commercial decisions. I was just drawing the parallel to the mistake that was made on streaming, and then in 10 years' time, they end up doing their own streaming service. I feel our media company in 10 years' time will have a lot more user interface and large language models. I don't think AI is a zero-sum game. I don't think there's only one or two winners. Yes, there's going to be big guys, but I think we all need to be looking at technology. We all need to be looking at AI, and you don't need to just jump at the first paycheck. Like, but at the same time, you know, Jonah Peretti turned down over about $1 billion to Disney when the deal was pretty much done, and they bought Maker Studios, you know, as a content platform, and they shut that down later. So I think he sort of regrets not selling to Disney at the time, BuzzFeed. But, you know, there's many decisions people make along the way, and we all make mistakes, and there's no one really knows the future of media. And, you know, there's a lot of M&A talk in media at the moment, but you know, at least OpenAI and Sora isn't stealing the House of Mouse assets. At least they're paying some money for it. But imagine having 100 years of animation, storytelling. Like, that's Pixar, that's all the great stories. That's all the beautiful stories Marvel is now just been handed over to a great big AI machine.
But I don't know, in my head, I feel like everything has already been handed over to AI. Because when you ask it, I was using it to, like, design stuff on Smashi Business, and, like, it knows all the characters. Like, everything is already there. So it's almost, I don't know, it's interesting when you think of it like that. But
But why can't Disney have their own view on AI? Why can't they train their own model with all their IP, and why can't they take other people to court and block them from using their IP, right? Rather than just taking a check.
No,
Okay.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, but, like, you know.
Emirates will handle all enabling and foundational and full site mobilization. This is going to be an 80-floor tower with 1 to 4 bedroom apartments and penthouses with views of the Arabian Gulf, the Dubai skyline and Burj Khalifa. Unit prices begin at 1.7 million dirhams, according to Dark Global.
Now, developers say that the skyscraper will include Dubai's highest outdoor pool and penthouses inspired by New York's Fifth Avenue Trump Tower. Now, completion is expected in December 2031. Now, Dark Global converted the site from leasehold to freehold earlier this year following changes to Dubai property law that allow full ownership of prime plots.
Fascinating. Yeah, so in Saudi Arabia, Dar Global, which they are a Saudi developer, recently appointed the main contractor for the 2 billion Saudi Riyal Trump Tower project on Jeddah's Corniche. The company listed in London and backed by Dar Al Akan continues expanding its Trump-branded developments across the region, citing strong demand for luxury real estate in major Gulf cities.
Now, Dar Global now has $12.5 billion worth of projects under development across 9 countries, including the UAE, Oman, Qatar, the UK, Spain, and Saudi Arabia, its main base. Now, the company also recently launched a Trump-branded resort in the Maldives that's being marketed as the world's first tokenized luxury island development, further diversifying its international real estate footprint. I think when I take a look at this entire story, Rich, I think about Dar Global. You know, that they have one extension that's London listed. And when you take a look at the entire story, I think that it really does symbolize the real estate evolution that we've actually had in the Middle East.
True.
There's a story that like constantly goes trending on Instagram, and it's basically all the Qataris, they own more of like London, of England, more than the king and the queen actually do. Well, the king. Yeah, but we always talk about this story, but it's the fact that they used to do this. They used to invest in real estate in Western countries, but now they're not just investing in that real estate; they're building it. You know, that they're building our future over here, and I think.
True, and even Trump says that the Trump family business has been handed over to his sons. He often says that when he's asked. So, you know, the photos and the link of Donald Trump in the region with Hussein Sojani and others are obviously there, but any of the trips of late, the sort of Trump Tower trips, are often by his sons, so they're running that business. There's a golf course here in Dubai, and Dar Global have other non-Trump developments as well, but these two main ones we're talking about, both in Sheikh Zayed Road and in Jeddah Corniche, are obviously Trump branded. So that's the Trump sort of brand, hospitality brand that they're building. But I totally agree. You know, Dar Global is also Sukuk. You can buy a corporate bond. That's how they fund a lot of these projects. We saw Bengali did a 500 million dirham dollar corporate bond in London in the summer as well. So these new young, I would say young, but these new development companies are going to the bond markets and they're raising funds on the back of a lot of positive confidence in the region and confidence in the building out of the region. And what's amazing is some of these are state-backed, like some of these like Dubai Holding, and you know, we saw in Abu Dhabi, we talked a lot about Aldar, Miral, a lot of big developers, but there's just more and more of them, and often, Ward, you and the team cover stories about doing development projects in Syria, in other places, in the North Coast, Ras Al Hikmat, in Egypt, and many other places, and it's not just one player. It might be, we often talk about Hamid Al-Abar and his entities, his vehicles, shall we say, and in Saudi, you know, you have Russian, which is the biggest developer in Saudi, sponsors of the Saudi Football League, but they've got huge, big compound development projects. The Diriyah project in itself, when there was a story yesterday that, you know, Diriyah is basically the old town, the old history, the Najd, where the Al Saud family came from, and the development there are very high end. They're all like Armani listed things, and Jerry, his surname, the CEO of the Diriyah development, is a friend of Trump's, and when he was showing Donald Trump around the development in Trump's recent visit, you could see Trump's eyes light up, and it prompted some of those famous words in his speech saying that, like, you know, we left these people alone and they created their own society and they created their own development. And nothing impresses Donald Trump more than real estate. I recently read his book, the one he wrote in the 70s or 80s, called Art of a Deal. And the whole book is about real estate projects in Manhattan. Like, it's all about, it's not even the art of the deal, it's the art of the real estate deal. You know, Trump Tower and how he built it and how people said no. So, you know, so yes, it's his son's doing this, but it's very much real estate. It's not hospitality. Yes, some of these things are hotels, but the Trump brand isn't necessarily up there with Four Seasons. We're not thinking of Trump brand for its service, like Jumeirah or whatever. It's a real estate project. And if Trump had big towers in Manhattan, he wants a big tower in Coronation Jeddah.
And you know what it also is, Rich, and it's so interesting. I think that we're honestly living in like this real estate race. We really are, because I was taking a look at what scholars are actually saying about these projects that are being built, and you know that mega projects are actually defined by any project that is above $1 billion.
Okay.
The Trump Tower Dubai is $1 billion.
Okay.
And we've obviously seen the amount of heat that the Neom project, the mega project, the mega city, it's a new city basically in Saudi Arabia. We've seen the amount of heat that they've basically received. When in fact, mega projects have always taken time. They've always needed a lot of contracts. They've always needed budgets that need to keep moving and adapting to the market, which as we've seen with the prices of oil going down, the market is changing, so they need to adapt to that. But my point here is basically what I'm saying is in the Middle East, we've seen how their mega projects have been insanely successful. They've built the tallest tower in the world, Burj Khalifa, and then you have the Saudis coming in and saying, hey, we're going to make this new city. For someone like Donald Trump, he's seeing who's building the best mega projects in the world, and it's the UAE. So if he's going to sign in a mega project, he's 100% going to bring it into Dubai because he's seen that they have that successful track record. And I think the reason why the West is just, coming out Saudi Arabia so much is because they've seen that mega projects here actually work out. And they achieve the best possible luxury to be achieved.
They do. Some of them do, and some of them, what was the minister in Saudi yesterday said, recently he said, we have no shame, or words to that effect. Like, in other words, we don't mind if some of our projects, if we cancel them and move on to the next one. Like, we're not looking to have a unblemished record. We believe in building, we believe in the future, and sometimes we change our strategies along the way. And, there are some projects in Dubai that have been more successful than others. There are some real estate projects that have been better. But also, I'm not a big real estate expert or fan, but, obviously if you see a building being built, and you see the real estate brokers sell it out, or if you see the hotels being booked, fully booked, and the prices of the hotels go up like 20,000-30,000 dirhams a night in Yas Island for the F1, or like if you want to stay in Royal Atlantis this weekend, you might pay 15,000 dirhams for a night, right? Like 500 dirhams is a good price for a hotel, not 15,000 dirhams, right? And so, but the good thing is Dubai has all prices now because there's lots of offerings, there's lots of mix in the market. It's not just the pricey things. But point is that, like, yes, if they sell out, it looks like success. But real estate is a long-term investment. There are times when the beach JBR in Dubai wasn't packed, right? And now last night it was packed. Were you surprised at how busy it was last night?
No, I genuinely was. And the traffic and how I don't really go to JBR, so when I saw it like that, I was surprised. It was buzzing with life. And in the morning I was on X, and Khalif Al Habtoor was basically the UAE billionaire and the chairman of Al Habtoor Group. He was saying, Rich, that I hear a lot of complaints about the traffic in Dubai, but in fact that congestion, he argued, is a sign of vitality. There's so much life in the UAE, and there's so much people there, and I think we saw that last night. Every single area was busy, whether it was like fine dining or it was like a fast food court. And I think it's a sign that they create so many spaces for people. But right now, something else that is going on in Dubai is, in fact, OSN says that its long-term partnership with Warner Bros. Discovery remains fully unchanged despite the escalating takeover battle for the Hollywood studio. Now, the Dubai-based broadcaster confirmed that Netflix's proposed $82 billion acquisition will not impact Warner Bros. Discovery's 30% minority stake in OSN Plus, purchased earlier this year for roughly $57 billion.
Netflix announced last week that it had agreed to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery, including HBO, HBO Max, and all film and TV studios, in a cash and stock deal financed by a $59 billion loan led by Wells Fargo, deal valued at $82.7 billion. The move would reshape global entertainment, giving Netflix unprecedented control over premium streaming and one of the world's largest content libraries.
But just days later, Paramount Skydance countered with a far larger all-cash offer, $30 per share, valuing Warner Bros. Discovery at $108.4 billion. Now, Paramount bypassed the board and went straight to shareholders after Warner Bros. Discovery initially accepted Netflix's proposal, arguing its rival bid offers higher certainty and stronger financing commitments.
A regulatory filing obtained by Smashi business shows Gulf sovereign wealth funds are bankrolling a major portion of the Paramount offer. Saudi Arabia's investment fund, PIF, Abu Dhabi's new state-owned Limad Holding, and Qatar Investment Authority, QIA, not the new QAI, are injecting a combined $24 billion into the hostile takeover attempt.
Now, despite the turbulence, OSN says its relationship with Warner Bros. Discovery remains locked in. Now, the regional giant maintains that its content pipeline, OSN Plus's strategy and distribution plans will continue as normal while the Hollywood bidding war unfolds, emphasizing the current contracts are insulated from external ownership changes. Now, I think, first of all, the fact that you have OSN coming up, they're Kuwaiti owned, by the way. I think it's great that they came out and they actually said something, because all the assets owned by Warner Bros. Discovery, they didn't really say anything there. So I think the fact that they're coming out, they're reassuring their consumers that, hey, nothing's going to go wrong here. But much more than that, Rich, I was taking a look at the market share here for streaming. What was so interesting is that, according to media, I believe, Shahid has 4 million subscribers in the Middle East. Netflix has 2 million. And I think with this story, it's so easy to get swept up in it and think of, the importance and how amazing this is. And yes, this is one of the greatest stories to ever play out in the business world. But I think much more than that, it's, to the listeners here in the Middle East, a part of our region, I think it's something so beautiful to actually see that Shahid, by the NBC group, is actually overtaking Netflix. In that in this part of the world, it's not the same fight, actually.
Yeah, true. And also, Netflix don't have an office here. Warner Brothers Discovery, parts of that sort of Discovery Channel did have entities here over the years, but Warner Brothers Discovery decided to come in first by licensing HBO to OSN, just like Disney did. But then over time, Disney opened an office here, and they managed Disney Plus here. So of the rivals, Disney Plus are the only really global giants who operate here properly in terms of operation and fully owned. Right now, they don't make a lot of Arabic shows or originals, but OSN is a regional brand. You can't get OSN elsewhere. It's geofenced. It's called so. If you want to watch White Lotus in the region, you watch it on OSN Plus. If you watch White Lotus in the US, you watch it on HBO Max. So. Yes, they came out for clarity. It's interesting, at Bridge Summit in Abu Dhabi, I was talking to Stefano Falah, the CEO and founder of Podio, and a gentleman from Angami, which is part of OSN, came up to us, and they were having a conversation about what's happening. And this was before the counter bid. And there was a bit of unclarity, because either way, there's already lack of clarity. Warner Brothers Discovery own 20, 30%, this report says, of OSN Plus, but OSN Plus pays Warner Brothers Discovery a chunky fee of tens of millions of dollars a year to license the content. So for HBO to be available in the region and build as premium content. So a lot of it is murky anyway, right? And I think the future isn't necessarily licensing. Masalan, for example, when Netflix, they don't have an office here, but they didn't license the Netflix library to Shahid. Okay, there's a bundle for the box in Saudi, but they didn't go, hey guys, you rep us in the market. That's what Warner Brothers Discovery HBO have done to OSN Plus. And I'm not sure while the story post that they did, they said we're locked in, and they used language like, they used defensive sort of watertight language, like basically saying we've got contracts, right? But like, is contracts a strategy? Like, yeah, they're long term, but what's that? 3-5 years, right? So so what's the future of this, right? Like, what's the future of Kipco? What's the future of Angami's listing on the Nasdaq? What's the future of Kipco have a corporate bond out as well? What's this money being used for? What's the future of the leadership of OSN Plus, Angami, and OSN Cable TV, which is a separate entity that's not under the OSN Plus Angami merger? OSN, what they call crapco or spinco or shitcos in the US, where they put the cable assets into a separate sell-off, like Comcast are doing it, Warner Brothers Discovery are doing it. The difference between the Netflix bid and the Paramount bid is one includes the crapco, the cable assets like CNN, and Netflix doesn't include the CNN. That $82 billion doesn't include Warner Brothers Discovery, CNN. That's going to be split off anyway, and that was happening anyway in April under Zaslav's leadership at Warner Brothers Discovery. So there's many ambiguity, murky things here. So yeah, I hear your point on streaming and Shahad and things like that. The other thing I was thinking of this is that like 82 billion is a lot to pay for historic assets. Like Netflix have been talking to Luma Labs, which is the equivalent of some of the Chinese AI, and they've been talking about making AI movies, right? Some of these hundreds of billions of dollars valuation companies in the US.
I think Saudi recently invested in Luma.
Yeah, someone did in the region.
Humane.
Was it? Yeah. But so I'm just wondering, Ward, would Netflix not just buy Luma Labs? Like if we think that AI is going to create the next, would Netflix not just buy Luma Labs instead of buying Warner Bros. Discovery, instead of buying old studios and actors and IP, we should not just buy AI.
You know what I think it is? I think it's almost that traditional thinking of, we want to own the old historical archives. We want to have all the characters that everyone so dearly loves. But I think with this entire story, Rich, it's just the rich getting richer. I think when I take a look at it, I really do think that Paramount has a chance of winning this because of the fact that not only do they have the Gulf sovereign wealth funds backing them, but they have they have Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, and if he's involved, that Donald Trump is involved, and that he's really lucky. And listen, this is a great deal for David Ellison, but they're gonna get a stake in TikTok, and now they're gonna get Warner Bros. Discovery, and it's like, how much more are you allowed to own?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think
them
it will.
owning the CNN. I mean, this is really controlling the narrative. I know it's the viewpoint that many people hold, and people might think it's really typical, but them having control over TikTok and then the CNN, it's like this is really dangerous.
They don't control us though, Ward. They don't control your voice.
No, but listen, but they don't control my voice, but they control what the Western world thinks about us.
Let them. And the Western world is it sounds like a big term, but there's only 300-something million people in the US. Like I think they overemphasize. I think Sir Martin Sorrell said on stage about the mergers in the media advertising world at Bridge Summit. He said that it's a negative merger, the whole Omnicom buying IPG or MCN. When the headline comes out about which things do you shut down when you buy, it's a negative merger. You're shutting down famous TBWA assets or agency assets, not that one, but you're shutting down assets. And similarly, in this sort of media ownership, if you're consolidating to shut down, I think the Paramount, I think they're going to let go 4,000 people or something, or save 4 billion or something, but they're going to lose a lot of jobs and you're going to shut down. Yes, mergers do have consolidations, but yeah, you mentioned some of the names you mentioned, and then there's other names involved here. Like there's obviously David Ellison's dad, Larry Ellison, there's Jerry Cardinale from IMI. There's all big names on that side of capital. I do think the M&A experts are going to win, and I think when you have IMI and when you have the mergers people, I think they're going to I think they're going to outlast the late nights that the Netflix team are doing. Netflix did a brilliant fast move, and they pulled off a deal, but I do think Trump is another 2 years or so in office. Netflix are very democratic. Like they're leaning towards the Democratic Party in the US. they're known to be, from leadership all the way down, from Ted Sarandos to all the leadership at Netflix. And if the next election has a democratic leader, then maybe these political things are at play. But having said all that, the US will play this out and they'll talk about 80 billion, and yes, they will be valued at a lot, but how much of their influence, you talked about Netflix not even having that many subscribers in the region, OSN Plus don't have many of that subscribers, Yango Play were able to come in with Egyptian shows and get large market share quite quickly. We have Stars Play, who are up to 2 or 3 million subscribers as well. The downloads of Stars Play over the last 10 years are 18 million. We know that we know that Shaheds have many subscribers. 2 million people watch the Tamania Sports app under SRMG. At Red Sea Film Festival, a new streaming service was launched. The streaming, it's not a zero-sum game. There are 60 streaming apps in the region. Smashi Sports has 200,000. Smashi has 200,000 app downloads. We just had an LG Fast Channel event here in our office yesterday, and they've got 2 million users across the region, or so. They won't share the exact number, but so Lovin Dubai is going to have a fast channel. So streaming isn't the zero-sum game that Wall Street has been led to believe, and that Netflix numbers. Yes, Netflix is the leader, and they have had a great head start, and they're amazing. But I don't subscribe to the theory that they're going to own our hearts and minds just because of this deal.
I think for me, I'm almost defensive about it because we saw IMI, they couldn't even take that 15% stake in the Daily Mail, but they're getting all of this, and these deals are successful and they go through. I think my point is, not even that they affect us that much or have that control over us, but it's almost like, why does this keep happening? That this level of power that they're acquiring. I remember I was watching the speech of Lubna, the Saudi billionaire from the Alain Group, and she was basically saying in her speech, and I found this really interesting. She said that for me, becoming the woman, becoming the CEO after 18 years, being the only woman working in the company in Saudi Arabia, she basically said that after she acquired the amount of wealth that she acquired, her focus after that was not really becoming more rich, but it was in fact creating more jobs for the economy, for the Saudi economy. And she said that she specifically believed that the middle class is the backbone of society. And I bring this up specifically because of the fact of, it might sound socialist to some people, but I think it's if we had more characters like that. These are the kind of protagonists that we require, who are, completely backing the economy, completely backing the community, the society, and trying to uplift everyone rather than constantly take everything with them. And in Saudi Arabia, we're seeing that footballers specifically are really winning. So the French footballer Paul Pogba has become an ambassador and shareholder in Al Habub, the Saudi team positioning itself as the world's first professional camel racing organization. Now, his investment comes as the sport accelerates toward formal commercial structures, league developments, and wider regional funding. Now,
so basically founded by Omar Al-Mina and Safwan Mudir, Al Habub Racing applies a performance and media-driven model, I love this, about camels. What a great story, by the way, to a traditional heritage sport. Their Red Sea Camel Company and Netflix's Camel Quest helped global audiences engage with camel racing, boosting the sport's brand value and investor interest.
And Pogba's involvement brings international visibility and strengthens Al Habub's ability to attract sponsors and partnerships. His entry mirrors the broader trend of athlete investors backing emerging sports properties as the team pushes to establish the world's first structured camel racing league.
I love this. The technology advances such as robot jockeys, biometric monitoring and professional training systems. Camel racing is entering a modern commercial phase. Al Habub aims to capture early market share as governments expand investment in sports, entertainment and cultural assets. Words we talk about people owning football clubs and the value of IP. I was sitting with, again, a little bit of a name drop, I was sitting with Gary Vaynerchuk for dinner the other night, and he talked to me about the value of the pickleball club that he bought. We had Alexis Ohanian, who's in Dubai again, and he was most recently at FII in Saudi. He owned Angel FC, a big female football club that got $1 billion valuation. He went early on female sports and IP. There's lots of talk, there's lots of IP sports brands growing in the region. We see the value of Al Nassr after Ronaldo and all this sort of stuff. And Paul Pogba, who was out of football, he's only like 33 or so, but he was out of football for 2 years after a doping ban, and he made his debut, his re-debut 2 weeks ago in Monaco in France, but he's very popular. He visits Mecca a lot. He's Muslim.
Is he a Muslim? I did see something somewhere.
He's a Muslim, yeah, and he's very popular in the region. And you know, we're surprised that he didn't sign for a Saudi club, but I think this Western notion, the English notion that Saudi only take has-beens and old players isn't true. They actually sign a lot of good young players. There's a central midfielder for Etihad who are training in Dubai at the moment. They had a behind closed door game against PAM FC, previously known as Al Qabila FC. It was 6-0 to Al Etihad with Benzema, etc. playing. So they played. Etihad are training in Dubai at the moment with Benzema and others. They have a 21-year-old French midfielder who's known as the new Pogba, or that style of player. Pogba has won the World Cup with France. He played for Man United, Juventus. He's a huge star. And to see that he's bought into a Camel racing team is fascinating. I sat with an entrepreneur yesterday, Felix, and he's building a football league like Kings League and Bowlers League, where influencers are owning teams. We see the E-Series in motorsport, where ex-footballers like Didier Drogba and famous stars around the world, singers like Steve Aoki and NFL players own teams. So this association, just like how the IPL league in India grew up with Shah Rukh Khan owning a franchise. So we're seeing this association with sports. There's lots of trends, but this is definitely one of them. And I love this story. I actually haven't watched that camel racing show on Netflix. I remember when it came out. It follows guys owning or buying the camels or whatever. But I really want to watch it now because I'm so intrigued. But yeah, I remember one of our first offices in Riyadh was near the Camel Association of Saudi Arabia, and it was in Riyadh, and we were doing Snapchat content for them, and they're so into it. They're so like Budwin, and they're so into it, and they're all, not only are they into camel racing, they're really big on Snapchat. Like the camel racing is huge on Snapchat in Saudi Arabia, so it's not as if camel racing is in the dark ages. They're actually au fait with digital and social and storytelling, and you know that's led them to a deal.
And it's also a very legitimate career here. I know people who actually didn't go to university because they camel race. But I think much more than this, you know, Rich. I think with Saudi Arabia, we constantly talk about how it has, you know, its entire sports industry has boomed because of these players that they've brought in, whether it was Ronaldo or Benzema. But I think much more than that, I think it's the opportunity that these players are getting. You know, just very recently, we basically heard that the Al Nassr forward, Ronaldo, basically the football king, has invested in the $20 billion startup Perplexity. And he now has like his own, you know, AI chat where you can basically research his entire history in football. But it's like, where is Ronaldo getting the money to do that? You know, the fact that he can invest in that he can become a shareholder in that. It's his more than $400 million contract with the Saudis. And I think, you know, they like to play it to seem that, you know, Saudi Arabia is benefiting. These footballers are benefiting too. The fact that they get these opportunities to become the faces of these campaigns and to amass so much wealth. You know, we've heard that Ronaldo, he got featured on Bloomberg Index and that he's now the first football billionaire in the world. So wow. I think that's interesting. And also, I want to add that today and yesterday, Saudi journalists are coming out with reports that Al-Walid bin Talal, the Kingdom Holding founder and chairman, is going to completely acquire Al-Hilal and completely from Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. But we're going to see if more confirmation comes in. Just
to add, I know you want to wrap up, but there's also the Mo Salah saga drama with Liverpool. It's you know, it's covered a lot on Smashi sports channels, but you know, just like Ronaldo at the end of 2022 with the World Cup in Qatar, he was falling out of Manchester United, and lo and behold, he ended up in January signing for Al Nassr. So if we have Mohamed Salah in the Saudi League in January, that would be amazing. If it's next summer or whatever, he still has a lot to give, and obviously he's playing for Egypt in World Cup and the African Nations Cup coming up now in Morocco. But I wonder which club he would go to in Saudi. There are some pictures of him in those fake AI pictures with Al Nassr. I have a feeling he might go to Etihad and Jeddah instead of Riyadh. Could be wrong.
I think that's going to be interesting to see. And that's a wrap for today, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the Smashi Business Show. Make sure to follow us across all social media channels at Smashi Business and stay ahead with our daily newsletter. You'll find the subscription link in the description.
This has been a Smashi Business Show, a Smashi Business production, part of the Augustus Media Podcast Network. A big shout out to the 2 million reach across all platforms every month. You make this possible. If you're one of them, we appreciate you. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.
Have a lovely weekend.